So our opponents pretty much said that we were only talking about inexperience. We were also talking about immaturity as well, and that was a big part of our argument. We had multiple statistics talking about that. For instance, the Graduating Licensing Laws and Fatal Crashes of Teenage Drivers National Study by IIHS said that immaturity is apparent in young drivers' risky driving practices such as speeding. A study of non-fatal crashes of newly licensed teenage drivers in Connecticut found that important contributing factors are speeding, losing control of the vehicle or sliding, and failing to detect another vehicle or traffic control device, often due to distraction or inattention. So this distraction, we believe, is corely because they're young drivers, not because they're inexperienced drivers. They don't see the importance of being safe on the road because they're too young to really understand these important aspects. Also, they brought up alcohol and smoking and things like that. I want to bring another quote also referencing that. In the Teenage Fatality Facts 2011 edition of the IIHS, young drivers are less likely than adults to drive after drinking alcohol, but their crash risk is substantially higher when they do. So the things that we see with teenagers is a lot of it, because there's such a small population of the drivers, their statistics are very small, but comparatively to all of those statistics, for every driver, it's exponentially bigger. And this is because they shouldn't be driving at that age. That's what that information is pointing towards. Also, he talked about how only 7% of teenagers are drivers of the total licensed population. And even though it's 7% sounds small, 7% of the total driving population is 9 million people, about 9.5 million people. So just because the percentage is small doesn't mean the total number of driving and the total number of CO2 emissions are small, if the total amount of CO2 emissions as a whole is very large. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. The things that we can do for reducing these emissions and things like that comes from very small parts, and seeing what we can get used to, what we can get used to not having, and things that are very important. We believe teenage driving is not that important. Also, he talked about convenience for parents and for the students in college and things like that. As an American, and we have American principles to kind of deal with what we have at that time, and we believe that convenience shouldn't come second to safety. You know, if safety is in question, people will deal with not having the convenience. People will deal with not going to their job or take the bus, like many adults do. Teenagers, they want to learn how to have the American ideal of working hard. They'll learn to take the bus, and they'll learn to do these things. It's not going to be that detrimental of thing for them to learn how to do it. If anything, it will help their work ethic a little bit better. So of all of these things we talked about, the number one thing, you know, the environment is definitely a big advantage, but the number one thing is safety. And we see time and time after again, teenagers, it's the leading cause for deaths among teenagers are car accidents. And they've tried with graduated licensing, they tried a lot of things, but it's still failing. So the number one thing that we have to do, and the only thing that we can do, is really raise the full licensing driving age to 19. And that's our position. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.